Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. On this video, I'm going to be looking at Libra, the month ahead, February 2021. Well, I, for one, am very glad to be moving into February. January was a very, very tough month. It always promised to be tough, one of the really in the last 12 months, one of the toughest. And of course, just automatically, because we get to February the 1st, it doesn't all change. But it is improving from there on. And I would say by the time we get to the middle of the month, there really will be a notable improvement with certain circumstances that maybe, as you're listening to me right now, you feel is not the case at all. So let me bring up your chart and then I can tell you what's going on in there. And we can also, there we go, there it is. Interesting, isn't it? If you see this little group of planets here, it is suggestive of something, isn't it? I mean, it makes you look at it and think, what does that mean? Well, it kind of means there's a great concentration of influences. So it makes for a very intense period. You know, we discussed this last month and probably the month before as well. But it's a good thing because it means you don't lose your focus. You're really focused on certain things. But yes, it can also mean there's a lot going on in your life. And what you probably want more than anything is a break, a kind of, it's a nostalgic feel. Gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could fly off to the Bahamas and sort of, just lie on the beach and have lots of beautiful fish and margaritas. It's that kind of feeling. Whereas instead, we are really still in the COVID-19 gloom with all the other attendant problems. But as I said when I began this video to you, things are improving, even if you don't necessarily feel that at the beginning of the month. These planets here, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, the new moon, Mercury, these are all in the 5th solar house. And this is a very creative area. And you may already be a very creative person. You may work in the arts, or you may do a lot of things that you consider creative. Or if you have situations in your life, whether it's finances or whatever it may be, you think creatively about how to work with them. So creativity isn't a big deal, it's just part of life. But I think that a lot of people get a bit kind of alarmed at that word. I often mention it when I'm working with my clients and they say, oh, no, I'm not creative. So you have to explain it doesn't mean you have to pick up a paintbrush or, anything like that. It means allowing something of yourself to express itself in some kind of way, whether that's in a project, whether it's in a relationship, even however it is. And one thing I've certainly discovered in my life is that when things go wrong, and yes, they do go wrong for astrologers, just like everybody else. One of the things that gets me out of my little blue phase is if I start working on a new idea and I'm using my creative energy to do it. Before I know where I am, I'm feeling really great that I've got something building, something, brewing. For others of you, Libra, this may be procreative as opposed to being creative this month. So this may have to do with getting pregnant or perhaps even already being pregnant and thinking about the birth of the baby. So that may apply to you in a procreative way. Or you may be having lots of fun procreating. There's that too. So we're in the area of relationships and romance. But I also think that, this idea of bringing something into being can be a business. It can be some kind of financial enterprise anyway, in a way. So all these things are worth kind of looking at and adapting to your own individual life. Now, these planets here are very important, Saturn and Jupiter. They went into Aquarius in December. And Jupiter's going to take a year to move through this area of your chart, move through Aquarius, and Saturn's going to take about 2.5. And they mean very different things. And I have talked about this quite extensively in my year ahead that I've written for you, which you can get online. One of the things about Jupiter is it expands. your sense of self. So you are more creative, more procreative, right? But it's also that somehow this sense of joie de vivre can actually infiltrate itself into many areas of life, so that you feel that you're enjoying life more, that people are more fun to be with, that you can have more fun in life. That's lovely Jupiter for you, brings success. Saturn is the reverse. Saturn suggests that there is a time when you have to be quite private, or that to bring something into being takes a lot of hard work and effort and sometimes disappointment. But for most of the year, this year, Jupiter has a run of your fifth house. So if you want to get anything creative going, go for it, or it may just happen, as it often does. What I also think is that these two planets have a lot to do with bringing us into the age of Aquarius. So if you're very astrologically minded, very interested in this idea of how we are changing, how life will change, how the world will change, now that we are certainly advancing in the age of Aquarius, there are going to be a lot of things about February that will bring this to light, whether they're scientific breakthroughs and all sorts of other things that seem to be taking us into, where we've never been before. That's what Aquarius likes to do. Of course, February the 14th is Valentine's Day, and Libra, being ruled by Venus, usually feels that's a very special day of the year. If you're in a relationship, then this year, that relationship, the occasion itself, can be really, really romantic. And for some Librans who are maybe hoping that someone will pop the question, or maybe you are the one who's going to pop the question, you couldn't have chosen a better time. A couple of days before February the 14th, on the 11th of February, Venus will be conjunct Jupiter, and there will be a new moon in Aquarius. So we've got this feeling that a new start is really coming just around the corner, and it's really related to Venus. So it has all those properties of love, relationship, union, togetherness. Now, of course, having said that, it doesn't mean the whole of the Libra clan are going to get proposed to or get married in February, but it does mean that the climate is perfect for that kind of thing. And also, we must remember that, we're different ages, we're in different places, and a Venus-Jupiter conjunction like this will work in many different ways for different people. But it is a kind of period of growth and advance. So you might have a lucky win at that time. Something good could just come through and you really feel blessed. It's just one of those lucky strikes. On the other hand, you could harness Venus and Jupiter and say, you know what, I'm going to do something intended to make life better and bigger, more beautiful, more loving, happier, everything. Then you take your step on the 11th. The new moon and the Venus-Jupiter conjunction combined are very powerful. And it rather depends where you are and what time you get up or go to bed, because you might even see Venus in the dawn sky or the twilight sky. I can never remember which way around it is at the moment, but she's a very, very bright light. And, that kind of connection between what's going on in the celestial sphere, what's going on in your life, and what I'm telling you can be a very, very powerful combination. Everything, as I often say, has mind power behind it. And when we look at these beautiful influences, we want to engage with them in some way. Now, of course, it's not perfect. It never is. And the reason it's not particularly perfect is around the 17th, we have the first Saturn-Uranus square of the year. There are 3 altogether. There's another one in June and the last one in December. And we're going to see this really in terms of what's happening in the world. And certainly a lot of the things that we are seeing, new orders trying to come in, old orders not letting them come in, and that kind of tug of war between where the great force is taking you forwards and where there is great resistance holding you back. That's what the Saturn-Uranus square is like. You will see this happening in situations out there in the world, but of course it can be happening in your life as well. And so if around the 17th, something comes to an end. It's, maybe it's a plan or a hope that you had and it's no longer viable for some reason. Or maybe something else really comes to an end. Or maybe it's just some kind of device or a machine that just stops working. The answer lies in a new one, in making and having new thoughts about things, in going in a new direction, looking at new strategies. And this is where you'll find your answer. I mean, sometimes if something is really broken, there's nothing you can do about it and you have to let it go. And we're all going to have to learn that lesson this year, whether we're Librans or whether we're Scorpios, whatever we may be. And we don't get much of a choice about it. Something will go. But out of that space will grow something new. Around the 17th, there could be all sorts of things that are a little bit difficult. So people won't be very easy to get on with. So if you've got, let's say, a meeting on that day, or you have something else happening around the 17th, remember there could be some opposition. People might be difficult and not their best selves. And so what you have to be is just kind of calm and easy and optimistic and just being yourself, really. And that will also bring the temperature down and perhaps make things much, much easier between you and other people. And it's not beyond expectation, really, that something really surprising and new could come about in that mid-month time. And it will make a positive difference immediately to you. But in most cases, you're not going to see what that positive development is until you've got a little further forward and more things have kind of evolved. Mercury will be retrograde throughout February, and well, not throughout February, until the 21st. I don't get particularly upset about a retrograde Mercury. I don't make my plans accordingly. If I've got a meeting and it's put in during the time Mercury is retrograde, I bear the fact that Mercury is retrograde in mind. Therefore, I leave earlier if I have to actually be somewhere. I make sure I've got everything together way in advance, just in case there are problems with technology. If I'm meeting someone online, there could be little glitches. So I do everything much more in advance. I do that. But it doesn't mean that the meeting or whatever else it is going to go pear-shaped. No, it doesn't. Of course, Mercury is retrograde for a reason, and it will almost certainly make you think about things in a different way. But it will also enable you to go back on a decision and remake it. Now, the interesting thing here is Mercury will be conjunct Jupiter on the 14th. And of course, the 14th, Sunday, is Valentine's Day. It's retrograde. So it may be that something that happened about a month before, on the 12th of January, plays into the events on the 14th. As it is, there's a real story going on here, in that something happened around the 12th of January, you made a decision or something somewhere in life, the 12th of January figures. As we come now to the 14th of February, it's got a new development, and it may be a setback. Maybe even on the 14th, you feel, oh, that's all gone wrong. Or, that can't go ahead anymore. So, where do we go from here? You can certainly rethink it, because by the time we come to the 5th of March, when Mercury again will meet up with Jupiter, but this time direct, well, that will be that. Then that whole story will be complete. But as I said, often with a retrograde Mercury, there are benefits. You get a little more time to consider things. And often we're always in such a rush to get things done and to have things happen. But often by waiting, even if we feel we've missed an opportunity, it can turn out to be much better for us. Last but not least, we come to the full moon. This is on the 27th. So the sun is in the 6th house, the moon in the 12th house. And I would say this is a time to be a little bit more careful of your health, Libra. You don't burn the candle at both ends. Don't, overdo it. Because the full moon tends to bring out our weaknesses. So if you've stressed your immune system or whatever you may have stressed by overdoing it, it's likely to cause you a problem. Of course, full moons are always also about completion. So it is possible that a job of work is complete at this time. You're done. And maybe that does just literally mean a project you were working on in connection with work. But for a few Librans, this might mean a job is done. That's over. It's gone. But it is appropriate. I know none of us like to feel that we've lost a job or feel anxious even if we leave a job voluntarily because the future is uncertain. But it is the right thing. When things happen on the correct astrological alignment, they tend to emphasize that this is the flow of life for you. And I think if you have that philosophical attitude to what comes or goes on that full moon, 27th of February, it will really help. I mean, remember this pattern that I'm talking about all of the year about rows running out, old orders ending, new orders coming into being, but they don't come in immediately. They have to be worked through. Time has to happen in order for that new thing to appear. So that full moon, these thoughts are also very appropriate to that. So Libra, thank you for listening, and I hope you found my advice helpful. I must admit, astrology is a very good thing to have to hand, because it does prepare you, like looking at that mid-month period around the 17th, and you're thinking, could be a bit tricky here. And so you go prepared, or you start whatever the advice I've given you. And then when you meet that event that could potentially have knocked you off your perch, it doesn't do that. And even if it does, you think philosophically and objectively about it. That's the beauty of astrology. So, as I said, thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you again on my other videos and on my audios and all the rest. Bye for now. Take care.